I'm Liam. I'm 32, a software engineer living in California. My whole life has been a battle to prove, to the world and to myself, that I'm worthy of love, worthy of a normal life like anyone else. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I stood on a dazzling stage in a luxurious Napa Valley ballroom, the soft golden lights bouncing off crisp white tablecloths, guests dressed in elegant tuxedos and flowing gowns. Amy, the woman I love more than anything, was gripping my hand, ready to recite her vows. I looked into her eyes, deep blue, shimmering like a still lake. Her softly curled brown hair fell perfectly around her shoulders, her fair skin glowing, her lips trembling slightly from nerves. I knew she'd been writing this speech for a week, pouring her entire heart into every word. All I wanted was to pull her close, kiss her forehead, and whisper, "You are the miracle of my life." But then, a familiar voice ripped through the air, shattering that warm, hopeful bubble. "Stop!" I spun around. Olivia, my sister, stormed up onto the stage, snatching the mic from the MC. Her eyes locked onto mine, brimming with disdain. I knew that look all too well. I'd grown up under its weight. That cruel mix of jealousy, hatred, and twisted satisfaction whenever I faltered. "Everyone!" Olivia raised her hand as if commanding the entire room to freeze. "Everyone thinks Liam is perfect, right? The admired engineer, the perfect husband-to-be. But he's lying to all of you." I felt Amy squeeze my hand tight, then suddenly loosen her grip. I turned to her. Her wide, stunned eyes looked like they were caught in a storm. Olivia's lips curled into a grin she must have been practicing her whole life. "He has a prosthetic leg. That's right, he only has one real leg. And he never told Amy, never told any of you. He's not who you think he is." The room shattered. I heard a wine glass smash, someone gasp in horror. Matt, an old college buddy, clutched his forehead, eyes blazing in shock. An aunt of mine shook her head, whispering to her friend, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." But from the back of the room, someone yelled, "Olivia, that's too far." I turned back to Amy. Her eyes were red, her lips trembling. She didn't step back, but her hands gripped her dress so tightly her knuckles turned white. She looked at me as if begging for an answer, as if she wanted to scream, "Why didn't you tell me?" My heart pounded violently. My breathing turned heavy. Cold sweat trickled down my spine. I wanted to hold her, to tell her that I was just scared of that look of pity I'd seen 1,000 times as a kid. I never told Amy about my prosthetic, not because I didn't trust her, but because I dreaded that moment she'd see me differently. I was terrified that every time she touched me, she'd only feel that flaw instead of the man I really was. But now, everything had exploded. Olivia scanned the room like a victor, her hand raised in triumph. "I'm only protecting you, Amy. You don't deserve to be lied to." She let out a sharp laugh, eyes gleaming with vindictive glee. I heard Jake, my best friend from college, jump to his feet. "Liam, are you okay?" His voice cracked, his eyes shiny with tears. I turned to Jake, tried to force a smile, but my hands were trembling violently. The entire ballroom fell silent. I felt every single eye dissecting me, stripping me down, tearing away all the layers I'd built over 30 years. I looked down at my left leg, the prosthetic I'd mastered hiding so well. All those years of refusing to swim, skipping summer camps, never letting anyone see me change. Hundreds of hours with physical therapists, learning to walk naturally, to stand without giving myself away. All to avoid these looks, the pitying, disgusted, horrified stares. I saw Amy sway slightly. I reached out to steady her, but she stayed standing, her eyes chaotic and desperate. In that moment, I wanted to disappear. I wanted to run from this room, from this wedding, from my own truth. But then Jake shouted again, louder this time. "Liam, you're not half a man, you're a damn hero!" I froze. My heart thundered. Blood surged to my face. One question slammed into my mind. If I didn't stand up now, would I lose Amy forever? Would I stay trapped in Olivia's shadow forever? I lifted my eyes to Olivia. She squinted at me, smirking like a cat playing with a mouse on the brink of death. I knew, right in that instant, that what I did next would decide everything. I closed my eyes. Every cruel memory, sharp as a blade slicing through my veins, came flooding back. The smell of disinfectant in the physical therapy room, the screech of the treadmill, the sound of my own sobs echoing off the walls when I was left alone in a corner, and above all, Olivia's laugh, shrill, hoarse, tearing apart every last shred of dignity I had. I remembered that day so clearly. I was 12, thrilled to finally join my first school field trip. I thought, this time I'll get to run with the other kids, be seen as normal. But Olivia snuck into my room, yanked my prosthetic leg into the middle of the floor, held it high above her head, and screamed, "Look at this! Liam is only half a person, half plastic." Her mocking laughter, the terrified stares from my classmates standing at my door, that image was burned so deep it took me nearly 20 years to believe I even deserved to exist. My dad always blamed me. "You know, if it wasn't for you, your mother would still be alive," he spat at me when I was just 6, one hand gripping a beer bottle, the other waving a cigarette in the air. Each word hardened like concrete around my tiny heart. I had no mother, no softness. All I had was fear. Fear of Olivia, fear of my dad, fear of the pitying eyes of the neighbors. In that house, only my grandfather looked at me with kindness. He used to say, "So what if you have a prosthetic? You can still run, still climb the apple hill with me. Who you are lives in your heart." But he died when I was 15. There was no one left to believe in. I retreated, hid, lived in Olivia's shadow, the perfect sister in everyone's eyes. She was smart, beautiful, won art scholarships, the pride of the family. I was just the crippled little brother, always trailing behind, head down. I remembered the time Olivia opened my locker in front of her friends, pulled out my backup prosthetic like it was some trophy, laughing hysterically. "Who wants to play soccer with a plastic leg?" I ran outside, hid behind a fence, and sobbed until I threw up. Back then, I thought, if I disappeared, maybe everyone would be happier. Then, when I was 17, I met Sam, the only kid who ever dared to sit next to me at lunch. He gave me a tiny keychain shaped like an American flag and said, "You're the strongest person I've ever met. No one else gets it, but I do." For the first time, I saw a glimmer of light. Thanks to Sam, I signed up for physical therapy. I learned to walk without crutches, to run short distances. At first, I'd fall after just a few yards. Some days I'd trip so hard my face scraped open, blood dripping all over the track. Sam would stand there, pat my back. "You're not half a person, you're a warrior." The worst pain wasn't physical. It was seeing Olivia's eyes when I limped home. She'd stand at the door, arms folded, lips curled up. "What's the point of pretending to be strong? You'll always just be a cripple. You'll never be normal." I clenched my teeth and kept training. I decided I had to stand up for myself. Not for anyone else, for me. At 25, I finally moved out. I buried myself in my studies, became a software engineer. I threw myself into work, avoided people, avoided love. I believed, if I don't love, I can't be abandoned. Until I met Amy. Amy was a librarian at the local library where I spent my weekends. One morning, I dropped a stack of thick technical books. She rushed over to help, her eyes gentle. She smiled. "Are you studying AI? I'm trying to read that book too. It's so confusing." For the first time, someone looked at me without pity or fear. Amy's bright smile, her deep dimples, made my heart skip. From quiet coffees to carefully planned hiking trips, where I meticulously hid my prosthetic, our connection grew before I even realized. Amy showed me what it meant to be seen and loved, unconditionally. But still, I kept my biggest secret from her. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I was terrified she'd look at me the way Olivia did. I was scared I'd lose her forever. That's why, standing on that stage today, I froze. I saw Olivia savoring every second, relishing the moment she tore my life apart, turned my deepest fear into a public spectacle. As those dark memories squeezed my chest, Sam's words echoed in my mind. "You're not half a person, you're a warrior." I opened my eyes and looked up at Olivia. She stood there, triumphant, like a predator toying with a cornered prey. But deep inside me, a flame began to rise. I didn't know yet what I was going to say, but for the first time, I saw myself more clearly than ever before. I clenched my fists so tight my fingertips went numb. My breathing turned heavy, ragged. Olivia's venomous words kept swirling in my head, but they slowly got drowned out by Amy's face, her trembling blue eyes, half pleading, half terrified. I knew if I didn't stand up now, I'd lose her. I'd lose everything I had ever dared to dream of. Summoning every ounce of courage, I shifted my weight onto my left leg. The prosthetic, the same leg I had once cursed, hated, now became the pillar holding up my entire being in that silent hall. I opened my mouth, my voice rough and cracked. "Amy, you might not believe this, but I didn't hide it because I didn't love you. I hid it because I loved you so much. I was terrified of losing you." Amy brought her hand to her mouth, her eyes flooding with tears, but she didn't look away. I saw her fighting inside, each breath catching in her throat. I turned to the room, the old friends, the relatives, the co-workers. The chandelier lights glittered on the floor like 1,000 tiny knives. I took a deep breath. For the first time in my life, I chose not to hide. I spent my whole life terrified that if people knew I had a prosthetic leg, they wouldn't see me as a whole person, I said, my voice growing stronger with each word. I was afraid they'd see me the way Olivia always did, as half human, half machine, someone unworthy. I turned to Olivia. She stood frozen, her mouth slightly open in disbelief. Her neck veins bulged, her hand shook. "You don't need to be ashamed," Jake suddenly shouted from the back. He jumped up, fist raised. "You don't need to be ashamed, Liam. You're the strongest person here." A few scattered claps rang out. I looked over and saw Matt standing, nodding slowly. One of my aunts dabbed her eyes, whispering to her husband, "That poor boy, he never deserved this." Amy stood there, tears streaming down, soaking the hem of her white dress. I stepped toward her, each step sinking into the floor like a stake, but I refused to fall. "I didn't tell you because I was afraid," I whispered, just loud enough for her. "Afraid that once you saw this leg, you'd leave me. I've been so cowardly, I know." Amy choked out a sob, her voice shaking. Why didn't you trust me?" I squeezed her hand. "I didn't think I deserved you. I've believed that my whole life, when they called me a burden, a monster. I thought if I could just hide it, I could keep you, and you'd never leave." She shook her head, as if trying to shake off the tears. But I saw it, the faint, trembling light still glimmering in her eyes. The fragile hope I had feared most would vanish forever. Behind me, Olivia burst out laughing. "See, Amy, do you see? He didn't trust you. He's just good at pretending. He doesn't deserve your love." I turned to her. My eyes no longer held fear, only a deep, weary disappointment. I spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. You've spent your entire life trying to convince me I wasn't worthy. You wanted to destroy me because you couldn't stand seeing me happy. But you forgot one thing. I'm not that trembling little boy you locked in his room anymore. A wave of whispers swept the room. I saw guests shaking their heads, others turning to glare at Olivia with pure disgust. Olivia gripped the mic so hard her face turned red, her breath ragged. "Who do you think you are talking to me like that?" Jake stepped forward, placed a steady hand on my shoulder, his voice low but firm. "He's a real man, a man you could never break." I looked at Amy. She was shaking, her lips pressed tight. Then suddenly, she rushed into my arms. My whole body froze, my breath splintered into shards. I don't care about your leg," she sobbed, her voice raw and muffled. "I just need you to trust me. I just need you to believe in me." I held her tight, my tears flooding down, merging with the growing applause around us. I heard chairs scraping, glasses clinking, but it all faded away. For the first time, I no longer felt like I was missing a piece of myself. I no longer felt like I had to pretend to be strong just to survive. I heard Olivia shrieking behind us, "Don't believe him, he's just acting." But this time, no one was listening. I felt heat surge through my spine, like a hidden power rising from deep inside me. Right then, I realized, true love isn't something you hide or fight for like a trophy. True love is standing there bare, letting someone see every broken, vulnerable part of you and still be accepted. I whispered into Amy's ear, "I'm sorry, I'll never hide anything from you again." She squeezed me tighter, nodding through her tears. I turned back to face Olivia. I saw her pale, her hand clenching the mic, trembling so violently her lips split and bled. I knew this was only the beginning of my real fight back. My heart was still pounding in my ears as Amy clung to me, her breath ragged, soaked with tears. But in her embrace, I felt something I had never dared to believe in my entire life: the truth. Not the harsh truth Olivia tried to expose to destroy me, but the truth that I was still worthy of love, even with my flaws, even with my fear. But I knew Olivia wouldn't stop. She threw the mic onto the floor and stormed toward me, her face burning red, almost incandescent. "You think you fooled everyone? I won't let you fool Amy. I won't let you play this pathetic, disabled hero act." I lifted my head and looked at her. For the first time, there was no fear in my eyes. "What more do you want? You've destroyed everything. What else is there for you to take?" Olivia's twisted smile spread across her face. "I want everyone to see you for what you are, a worthless parasite living off people's pity." The entire room went dead silent. I heard a soft clink of a wine glass, the shuffle of a chair, someone's sharp inhale in the front row. Every eye turned to Olivia, shocked, disappointed, laced with disgust. I took a deep breath. I felt my blood warm as it coursed down my spine. For the first time, I didn't see her as terrifying. I saw her as small, pitiful, empty. "You know," I said, my voice eerily calm, "you've spent your whole life trying to convince me I wasn't worth anything. You wanted to drag me down to your level because you couldn't stand to see me happy." Olivia trembled, her fists clenched so hard they turned white. "Shut up! Just shut up!" I took a step forward. "I won't shut up. I've been silent for 32 years. But today, right here, in front of everyone, I'm going to tell them the truth about you." I grabbed the mic from the MC, turned to face the entire room. The spotlight seared my face, but I didn't lower my head. "I've suspected you for a long time," I said, my voice echoing strong and steady. "You always pretended to care, to play the loving big sister, but behind the scenes, you were sabotaging every step I took." Olivia's mouth dropped open, her eyes darting around wildly. "You're lying! You have no proof!" I raised my hand. From the back of the hall, Jake rolled out a laptop and connected it to the big screen. I watched as Olivia turned pale as a ghost. "Here," I pointed to the screen, "a video from 2 months ago, when you called my ex-boyfriend. Remember what you said?" The video played. Olivia's screeching voice filled the room, dripping with hatred. "He thinks he can just live peacefully with that stupid Amy? I'm going to expose him at the wedding. I'll make sure everyone despises him so he never dares show his face again." The room exploded in gasps and whispers. Some guests covered their mouths in shock. Amy stood frozen, her eyes wide as she stared at the screen. Olivia lunged toward the laptop, trying to yank out the cables, but a few guests stepped in, blocking her. "Move! You're all being fooled!" she screamed. "Don't listen to him!" I shook my head. "You claimed you wanted to protect Amy? No. You just wanted to see her hurt. You wanted to take away the one piece of happiness I had left. You failed in your marriage. You failed in your career, and now you can't stand seeing your little brother find love." Olivia howled. "Shut up! You don't know anything! I gave up everything for you. I'm the one who deserved love. You're the one who doesn't deserve it." Amy stepped forward, her voice shaky but clear. "And did you ever really love anyone? Or did you only know how to envy and steal what others had?" Olivia staggered backward, her eyes wild, her arms falling to her sides. She looked around desperately for allies, but found only cold, judgmental stares. An aunt from my mother's side shook her head and spoke loudly. "You're truly cruel. I never thought you could do this to your own brother." Jake stepped beside me, gripping my shoulder. "Liam, you did what most people would never dare. You're braver than anyone here." Applause broke out, slow at first, then building into a roaring wave. People stood, some crying, some raising their hands in support. I felt every cell in my body ignite, not from fear, but from liberation. Olivia backed away, her gaze shattered, her lips moving without sound. I looked at Amy. She was still crying, but her eyes were blazing with pride. In that moment, I understood. This wasn't about whether I had a prosthetic leg anymore. It was about finally standing up, facing the biggest ghost of my life. I took a deep breath, squeezed Amy's hand tight, ready to step into the next chapter. The moment where no one, not even Olivia, could ever destroy us again. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath, as if everyone was waiting to see what I'd do next. In my hand, the mic still trembled slightly, warm, almost alive, as if it carried every year I had been pushed down, mocked, torn apart under Olivia's gaze. I looked at Olivia, the sister I had once loved, once wanted to protect. But now she was nothing more than a warped shadow of herself, her eyes vacant, lips quivering without words, her hands hanging limp like all the life had drained out of her. I took a deep breath and turned to Amy. She was right beside me, her eyes swollen and red, her wedding dress still dotted with tears. I reached out and gently touched her cheek. "I'm sorry," I said softly, but the words echoed through the entire hall, carried by the mic. "I'm sorry for not trusting you, for letting my fear control me all these years. But today, I choose to believe. I believe you love me, and I love you. There's nothing left to hide." Amy burst into sobs, lunging forward to wrap her arms around me. I heard her choke out between sobs, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Thunderous applause erupted. My shoulders shook, not from fear, but from finally standing firm on my own 2 feet, even if one of them was artificial. Behind me, Olivia suddenly screamed, her voice raw and torn. "Enough! You'll all regret this! You'll see he's not worth it! He'll betray you all!" I turned and looked at her, calm. "You know, you should have been the first to teach me that no one's perfect, that we all deserve love despite our flaws and our pain. But you chose otherwise, and today, you destroyed yourself with your own hands." Olivia lunged forward to grab the mic, but Jake stepped in front of her. His eyes were cold as ice as he spoke firmly. "Enough. This isn't your stage. This is Liam's wedding day. You don't get to ruin it any further." Olivia froze, her breathing ragged, her gaze frantic. Then suddenly, she spun around and bolted. Her dress whipped around, knocking into chairs, sending a tray of wedding cake crashing to the floor. The hall buzzed with whispers, some guests shaking their heads, others turning away. An aunt of mine glared at Olivia, her voice rising above the murmurs. "I'm truly ashamed to call you family." As Olivia's footsteps faded, I looked around. The room was filled with sighs, claps, and quiet tears. I turned back to Amy. Her hand still rested on my chest, her heart thundering beneath that thin layer of fabric. I took a deep breath, holding the mic tight. "You once asked me what scared me most," I said, my voice rough but steady. "What scared me most was being seen with pity, being looked at as broken. But today, I'm no longer afraid, because I know you will never look at me that way." Amy nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. Her lips mouthed, "Never." I grabbed her hand and dropped to one knee. The entire hall gasped. Phones shot up all around us. But for the first time, I didn't care who was watching. I proposed to you once before, with a simple gold ring, on a romantic night by the beach. But today, I want to propose again, this time as my truest self. Amy sobbed uncontrollably, her hands covering her face, her shoulders shaking. I pulled out the ring from my vest pocket, held it up, my eyes locked on hers. "Will you marry me? An imperfect man, a man with a prosthetic leg, but one who will love you with every beat of his heart." The room exploded with cheers. Someone yelled, "Yes, say yes!" Amy rushed forward, pulled me up, and kissed me deeply. Amidst the cheers, I tasted the salt of her tears on my lips, felt her warmth seep into the coldest corners of my soul. She pulled back, whispering, her voice trembling, "Yes, yes, I will." The entire hall erupted into applause, whistles, cheers. Someone shouted, "That's real love." I held Amy tightly, every last bit of fear, shame, and guilt dissolving. Behind us, the stage screen lit up, wedding of Liam and Amy. The final proof that this day was ours, untouchable. I knew there would still be battles ahead, but from this moment forward, I would no longer run. I looked down at my leg, my prosthetic, and for the first time, I didn't see it as a burden, but as a testament to my strength, my ability to rise again and again. I leaned close to Amy, whispering just for her, "We're going forward together, right?" She smiled through her tears, nodding hard. "We're going all the way, together." Soft music filled the room. The DJ started playing the love song Amy had picked months ago, the one she said, "I want our first dance to start with this song, so you'll remember this moment for the rest of your life." I took her hand and stepped onto the dance floor. For the first time in my life, I wasn't worried about my prosthetic leg showing or anyone noticing my awkward steps. Every eye was on us, but this time there was no pity, no awkward glances. Thunderous applause surrounded us. Amy rested her head on my shoulder, whispering, "I'm so proud of you." I felt her warm breath against my neck, so real and comforting it nearly made me break down. I pulled her closer, guiding her through each slow turn, even if I stumbled slightly here and there. Jake stood at the edge of the dance floor, eyes glassy, beaming. "That's my guy," he yelled, raising his glass. Laughter rippled through the crowd, guests clapped in rhythm, and the entire hall felt wrapped in warmth and unity. But among the crowd, I noticed some of Olivia's relatives whispering. One of my aunts murmured, "Honestly, Olivia's always had issues. I once saw her sabotage her ex's charity project just for revenge." Another nodded, "She's never been able to stand seeing anyone happier than her." I heard every word, but instead of feeling shame or anger, I felt a strange sadness. I remembered all those years when Olivia put on a perfect front, showing off her art awards, dressing in expensive gowns, flashing sweet smiles in public. But behind closed doors, all she had was rage and a burning, bitter jealousy. And I realized Olivia had been trapped in her own prison all along. After our dance, Amy pulled me toward the wedding cake. Her eyes sparkled as she asked, "Are you ready?" I nodded. The whole hall fell silent, phones raised high. I held the knife with her, her hands trembling slightly. I reassured her by placing my hand over hers, locking eyes. "There's nothing to be afraid of anymore." She gave a small, shaky smile. Together, we sliced the cake. The smooth white icing parted cleanly, and the room erupted in cheers. The applause swelled, the music shifted to something lively, and guests began spilling onto the dance floor. Amy took a piece of cake and fed it to me. I laughed, taking a playful bite, then gently wiped frosting from her lips. She giggled, burying her face against my chest. In that moment, I wasn't thinking about Olivia. I wasn't thinking about my dad's cruel words, or those lonely hours in physical therapy, or the neighbors' pitying stares. All I saw was Amy. "You know," she said, lifting her face, frosting still on her lips, "when Olivia screamed about your prosthetic, it hurt. But not because of that. It hurt because you didn't trust me enough to tell me." I exhaled, resting my forehead against hers. I'd been punishing myself for so long, but I swear, from now on, you'll be the first to know every fear, every dark corner inside me. She nodded gently, her eyes shimmering. "Good, as long as you stay you." I let out a small laugh and held her even tighter. Then the MC stepped onto the stage, his voice booming through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we witnessed not just a wedding, but the courageous journey of Liam and Amy. Let's raise our glasses to them, to truth, to love, and to bravery." The hall erupted. Applause, glasses clinking, whistles, cheers. I looked up at the crystal chandelier above us, its light sparkling like stars across the ceiling. I realized then, this moment was living proof that no one could destroy me unless I let them. Not Olivia, not anyone. I bent down and kissed Amy's forehead. "Thank you for not leaving." She smiled, tears spilling down her cheeks, whispering, "I'm here, and I always will be." Amidst the music, the laughter, and the shimmering lights, I knew with certainty I had won. Not just against Olivia, but against the darkest parts inside me. Most importantly, I had kept Amy, the one person I had feared losing more than life itself. The wedding celebrations stretched late into the night. People slowly began trickling out of the hall, leaving behind lingering blessings, warm hugs, and tearful smiles that hung in the air like soft echoes. I stood by the door, shaking hands with each friend and relative, feeling, for the first time in my life, truly present. Not halfway, not hiding. Jake gave me one final pat on the shoulder before leaving. "You showed the whole damn world how strong you are, Liam. I'm proud of you." I pulled him into a tight hug, both our shoulders shaking. Amy grabbed my hand and led me to the far end of the hall where the staff was clearing fallen petals from the floor. The lights had dimmed, leaving only gentle, warm beams around us. "Tired?" Amy asked softly, running her hand across mine. I shook my head, a small smile breaking out. "I've never felt more real than I do today." Amy looked at me, her deep blue eyes searching mine. "You know, I don't just love you for your strength. I love your weakness, your fear. Every piece of it makes up the man I chose today." I sniffed and let out a laugh. "You sound like you're giving an Oscar speech." She laughed too, then suddenly pulled me close and kissed me. It was a slow, deep kiss, sweet and freeing. After the kiss, Amy's eyes drifted down to my leg. For the first time, she really looked. Instead of stepping back, she knelt down and gently touched the prosthetic. "I've never seen anyone as brave as you," she whispered, her voice trembling, "and I promise I'll walk with you through it all." I bent down, holding her tightly, my heart pounding like a war drum. Right then, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered, and a shaky woman's voice cracked through. "Liam, it's me." I froze. "Olivia?" Amy looked up at me, worried. I turned away, breathing deeply. I'm sorry." Her voice was raspy, broken. I've lost everything. The family doesn't want me. Friends have turned their backs. I have nothing left." I stayed silent. Inside me, a hurricane of emotions roared. Anger, sadness, and, somehow, pity. "Liam, can you forgive me?" Olivia sobbed, sounding like a lost child. I closed my eyes. Memories flooded in, her torment, her cruel words, the time she left me bleeding. But I also remembered that one time she stood in the rain looking for me after I was bullied, the nights she made me porridge when I burned with fever. I need help," Olivia whimpered. "I don't know what to do anymore." I took a deep breath. "You need help, but not from me. I can't heal you. I forgive you, but I can't let you back into my life." Silence on the other end, only the sound of her quiet sobs. "I wish you the best," I said softly, and hung up. Amy stepped forward, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "Are you okay?" I nodded, staring out the glass doors. The city sparkled under the night sky, the lights reflecting in my eyes like 1,000 tiny stars. I turned to Amy. "You know, I spent my whole life thinking I had to hide every scar, every imperfect part of me to be loved. But it wasn't until I revealed them that I finally felt truly loved." Amy smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I love you, every piece of you, even the parts you used to hate most." I pulled her into a tight embrace. That night, we left the hall hand in hand, stepping into the foggy street, but my heart had never felt so clear. I knew then this wasn't just a wedding. It was the first time I chose to love myself, to stand up, to win. And Olivia, swallowed by her own darkness, was the final proof. When you let hatred control you, you destroy yourself from the inside out. But me, I had found everything: love, truth, and pride.